In our application, what do we do if there's a URL that isn't mapped to a state? Well, one thing we might want to do is set up a default URL for the application to go to if it sees a URL that it doesn't recognize. With the Angular router, this is easy to achieve because there's a method on the route provider, it's the otherwise method, and you can give the route provider instructions on what to do if it hasn't found a matching route. With state provider, there's something very similar, but I do this with the URL router provider. The URL router provider has a number of methods that allow you to tell UI router how to interact with URLs in a very low-level way, and it also has an otherwise method. So I can tell it that if you're on a URL that you don't recognize, it doesn't map to any of the known states, then just redirect to this URL, /dashboard/overall. And if I save this and refresh my browser, even though I am on /D, I should be taken to /dashboard/overall. So that's one thing I probably always want in place in my application, some sort of default route. And the other thing that I always want to do when I'm using UI router is to have some visual indication when there is a problem getting to some specific route. I'm going to simulate a problem by actually having the wrong template URL for the costs state. And if we look at what happens right now if I try to get to costs, well, there's no indication to the user that there's an error. They're just still in the overall state. And if I open up the developer tools, that's the only time where I would be able to see that there was some sort of problem loading the template. So anytime UI router has a problem transitioning to a state, it will raise an event. And any application I build with UI router, I always want to catch that event and give the user some visual indication that something has gone wrong. Otherwise, they click on buttons and links and nothing happens and they get very frustrated. Not that when things are obviously wrong, they don't get frustrated also, but at least the application is admitting to them that something is wrong. And to handle this error, I will register a run function with my module. I'm going to do this in a separate JavaScript file, statechangeerrors.js. It is included on the shell page, but I just want this functionality somewhere else so it doesn't clutter up my main module.js definition. To listen for this event from UI router, I'm going to inject root scope and the alerting service into the run function. I'm injecting root scope because that is where I can listen for that event by using the on method and saying that I want to listen for state change error is the name of the event. And when UI router raises this event, it will pass a number of parameters to this function. It will pass the underlying event that caused the state change, the state transition to happen. It will tell you the state that you're trying to get to, the parameters for that state, because just like Angular router, you can have parameters in the URL. It will also tell me the state I'm coming from and any from parameters. And then last but not least is the error object itself. In this case, where a template is not getting loaded correctly, the error would be the HTTP response message with a status code of a 404. So your application can certainly inspect that error object and figure out something smart to say to the user. But in many cases, all you want to do is provide some sort of generic error message like could not load, and I'm going to throw in the name of the state that we're trying to get to. Now if I come back to the application, let me refresh. Let's try to go to the costs. And now at least the user can see on the screen that something has gone wrong. We couldn't get to this template. And they'd be able to contact me and give me that error message. I'd be able to at least get a head start on trying to diagnose what the problem is.